Here's your brain. In your brain, you have your A, your B, two hemispheres. All day long, you're processing. When you're driving your car and the lights are working and kids are walking home from school, your brain's just taking it in, processing it. In your brain, you have what we call adaptive memory networks. Now that is memories that are positive memories. Memories that say, I am safe, I am valuable, I am loved. It might be that vacation to Daytona Beach you took with your family. It might be the award that you won in school and you think, I'm significant, I'm valuable. And they show up in our brain like a beautiful tree. But in EMDR therapy, we learn about traumatic events. And you can have what EMDR calls a one-time traumatic event, which might be being held up at gunpoint. It's possibly that you are in a car accident, and we work a lot with rape victims who might have had a date rape. And so that would be a one-time traumatic event. But we also have a series of traumatic events, and EMDR calls them little T's, even though they add up to a big T. So that might be growing up in a home where you never felt good enough, or you felt, I need to be perfect, or you didn't feel safe, or you didn't feel valuable, or you had these thoughts of, I should have known better. And when these events happen, they aren't processing through back and forth. They get stuck or frozen in your brain, and then the maladaptive is what we call it, a maladaptive memory network. And so you have adaptive and you have maladaptive. And therefore, when you have what I call a dollar reaction to a nickel infraction, then that's normally an indicator that there's a maladaptive network there, a look on someone's face. Maybe you give a presentation and you're in front of a crowd of 1,000 and you see someone look at their watch. And maladaptive, you go to, I'm not good enough. I knew I couldn't do this. I'm not significant enough to really stand up in front of all these people and give a presentation. If you're adaptive, you might think, oh gosh, maybe they're hungry. Maybe they want to go to lunch. Maybe they didn't get enough sleep last night, and so they're just thinking, when am I going to get out of here? It becomes less about something's wrong with me, and maybe something's going on with that other person. So EMDR therapy is designed to help take this maladaptive network, keep what it needs to keep, and turn it into an adaptive network so that you don't have these triggers anymore. When I went for EMDR therapy, I had struggled with anxiety for many, many years. I was 52 years old when I went for EMDR therapy. And someone in grad school said, I think you need an EMDR therapist. I'd never even heard of the EMDR therapy, but I was so tired of struggling with anxiety, worrying about the safety of my family. I woke up every day with a feeling of dread. I had gone to talk therapy through the years, had gotten some valuable resources from talk therapy, but it was just this feeling that would come on me if I couldn't reach my 18 or 21-year-old daughter and son. If I couldn't reach them on the phone, I honestly had them in the bottom of a lake, and I thought something bad. Even when I couldn't reach my husband, and I would think, I know he's got his phone right beside him, and I would just have these panic attacks, something's wrong. So when I went in for EMDR therapy, we did a memory timeline. And a lot of the theme that came up for me, and I'm going to show you how we set up a reprocessing session, which you'll see pretty soon between Jackie and me with a different target. But I came up with a lot of the same beliefs about myself. I'm not in control. And as we did my memory timeline, we found what we call a touchstone memory. It was something that had happened to me that I had completely forgotten about, but my brain and my body had not forgotten about it. It was locked into that maladaptive network. And when I was 12 years old, so I was 52 when I went for EMDR therapy, so 40 years earlier, I had seen a little girl get hit by a car and she died. And it wasn't just any little girl. It was a little girl in our neighborhood named Stacy, and we adored her. She was 5 years old, real petite little blonde. Her parents just let her and her older brother roam the neighborhood. And that day, she came over to our group, 7 or 8 of us outside playing, and she said, I'm heading home for dinner. And we're like, okay. Now, she had crossed that 4-lane highway umpteen times in her 5 years. And so none of us thought we need to walk her across the highway, but we did want to wave goodbye to her as she went across. So she stood on the corner, and as she started running, we're like, bye, Stacy. And a police car came over the little hill and hit her, and she ended up being thrown up in the air and dying. And I went to her, I remember her viewing like it was yesterday, that little blue dress, pearl ring, and I was called into court because the parents sued the police department, and so I was called into court to testify. So this is where my maladaptive network of I'm not in control began, and we call seeing Stacy get hit by a car the target in EMDR therapy for this reprocessing session, and it's where the maladaptive network of I'm not in control began. In an EMDR session, we will say, a reprocessing session, when you think about this target, what do you want to believe about yourself? Well, I want to believe I'm fine. Because most every day, especially when I was picking my kids up from school or friend's house, I did not feel fine. I just thought they had lost them, something had happened to them during the day. They hadn't called me yet. The next question we ask is, when you think about this 40-year-old memory, and so you light it up, thinking about Stacy getting hit by the car, then today on the couch, 40 years later, in your gut, not your head, but in your gut, how true does it feel I'm fine? 1, doesn't feel true at all. 7, no, it does feel fine. And I'm like at a 3 that day in 2011. Then the next question we say are, what are some emotions that come up for you as you think about this memory? Well, I'm devastated. We adored her. I'm anxious, scared, and I'm hurt. And then we ask, when you think about this target memory and you pair it today on the couch with I'm not in control, 0, you're calm. 0 doesn't mean it's okay she got hit by a car. 0 doesn't mean it's okay someone beat me. It doesn't mean it's okay. It just means now when I think about it, I don't have anything showing up that causes me distress. To 10, a lot of angst. And so the first day we did that, I was at a 9 for a 40-year-old memory that I lit up when I thought about it in my brain. And the last question we ask is, where do you feel that 9 in your body? Where's it showing up? For me, it was in my head and my chest. So that's how we set up a reprocessing session. I use pulsars. Jackie is going to talk to you about the different modalities we can use for EMDR therapy. You will see an EMDR therapy reprocessing session in a little bit. But this is how, as a therapist, I set this up, and I let them know trauma lodges in your body somewhere. That's why people go to the doctor with stomach aches, and the doctor will say, I can't find anything wrong with you. Or headaches. I had headaches for years. After 4 months of EMDR therapy, I rarely have a headache. I can't say I haven't had one, but I went from daily headaches to almost non-existent headaches. It just shows up in your body somewhere. In the EMDR therapy process, we do body scans, and we help the body to release that trauma so that we don't have those stomach aches anymore or those headaches anymore. So this is how we set it up when we get ready to do a reprocessing session. We'll do phase 2 before we do phases 3 to 8, and we're going to talk to you about that today, and I'm excited to do it. Thank you.